Well, we are live with the Women Are Worthy show. I missed y'all. I hope y'all missed me. Well, we have a wonderful guest today. We have a Miss Monica Pickett. And Monica is a mother, writer, author, and a
Grandmother.
broadcaster. Yes, and a grandma, a nana. She's also a cultural commentator. I like that. Cultural
I like the
commentator.
way that sounds too.
I know, cultural commentator. Now, she's also a veteran of the United States Army and served as a medic in Operation Desert Storm. Baby! Wait a minute. Desert Storm? Desert
Yes,
Storm?
honey. They call me Private
Really?
Benjamin.
And you know what? It's true what they say, black don't crack.
No,
You know
no,
what I'm
no.
saying? Black definitely
No.
doesn't crack.
No.
So, and when I look at your skin, it's just gorgeous. And you were talking about your makeup artist.
Girl,
Please.
like I said, I was trying to be fabulous, but COVID-19 is just trying me. But, I would have been cuter for you, but, I don't have my makeup artist right now. So this is what you get. This is the original Jersey girl.
Wait a minute. First of all, any cuter, honey? You're in the stars already. Can you let the host? Look kind of cute, please? Just kind of cute. But you want to get cute for me, please. And also, I want people to know you received an honorable discharge in '91, and you're a highly sought after speaker. And she's also an advocate for the LGBTQI rights. So we want to welcome this worthy woman, Miss Monica Pinkett.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Monica, we have all day for you, okay?
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
And I'm excited too. What I loved about you is, see, I created this show, the Women Are Worthy show, to create a platform that we can build, embrace. We're all about building characters, embracing one's soul. Ooh, what you drinking, Monica? What you drinking?
Girl, listen, I don't even know. My mother used to be a barmaid. She just threw something together for me.
See, I'm jealous because I can't even get to sip any of that. See, I'm sipping water. I'm not even sipping tea.
Well, I'll drink some for you. I'll sip some for you.
Okay, thank you. So the fact that you were you're a military veteran, an Army veteran, you served in Desert Storm. And so I want to talk to you about that. Then we can talk about your book, because I want people to know who you are. And I must say, you are wearing that blue. You are wearing it. Okay. I think we're going to have fun tonight.
I need it, girl, with this. Oh, I need it too.
I know. So can you tell us, Monica, a little bit about what made you, who is Monica? Let's start off with there. Who is Monica Pickett?
Well, I'm just a roundaway girl from Asbury Park, from the village. As me and my sister say, around the way filet, I'm a Jersey girl. And I knew I was going to love you because you're an East Coast girl. When, we started talking about the East Coast, you know what it's like, Brooklyn in the house.
Yeah, Brooklyn in the house. Yeah.
Yes. So, I'm just a Jersey girl, but, I've had some ups and downs in life, just like everyone else. But, I've always, I was blessed to have been born with a very healthy sense of self-awareness. And so I came out at the age of 13 in the early 80s, where, there were no role models, or I thought I was the only little girl who looked, who liked other little girls. And, and I had some difficult times. And, I was bullied in high school, and then I went to college, and everyone's goal was to get married and find a good husband. And I was like so bored because that wasn't me, and I was out, and my roommates were, they were very supportive, but I was like, this is so not for me. And I was just dreaming about having a wife, honey. My grade point average it just sucked, honey. And so I just, I said, well, I don't want to do this.
Wait a minute. You can't have the guests choking on the show.
I'm just saying. I was like, this is not for me. And, so I was like, let me just drop out and see how difficult life is without having a degree. And I did, and I waitressed for a year. And then my stepdad was a Vietnam veteran, and, he started talking to me about joining the Army, and I could travel, and, they would pay for school. And I was like, the Army? I can't imagine me being in the Army. And I finally decided to go in, and I have to tell you, it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made, because the military, they break you down as an individual in order to build you up as a soldier. And so, once you can pass basic training, there's really nothing you can't do once you set your mind to it. It's just instilled so much discipline.
Well, first, let me say this, and I didn't say it before. Thank you for serving, because when it
Thank
comes
you
to
so much.
our military veterans, I think we have to definitely thank you people for serving. When I mean you people, because you have your own family. That's a whole nother.
It's a bond for life.
Exactly. So I want to thank you for
Thank you
serving.
so much.
So my question to you is, okay, so you're in the military,
Uh-huh.
because people, I'm telling y'all, she is so interesting, y'all. But wait,
No, I'm
we're
not.
gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Let me take a
So,
sip on that one.
okay, let me join you. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, so Monica, when you decided you were in the military, what shifted your mindset that, okay, fine, I did my years, what did you want to do? Because there's so many people out there, because did you say you came out when you knew when you were a little girl? Is that what you said?
I came out at 13, and that was very difficult.
And how was it
Because
with your family when you did come out? How was that?
my father disowned me. My mother was in denial, and those are her words and not mine, for a very long time, but she was always very supportive. But when I came out to my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, my Nana, she was like, I don't understand that life. That's a hard life, but me and your pop will love who you love, and we will always love you. And so, girl, it ain't nothing like a grandmother and a Nana. And I was like, after my Nana said we will always love you, I didn't really care what anyone thought. I was like, my Nana loves me.
Because with nothing, I'm telling you, when it comes to grandmother, when a grandmother prays, when
Yes.
they pray,
Yes.
baby, oh my
Baby.
goodness.
Yes. So I
So,
didn't care. I was like, hey, my grandmother loves me. And, my mother loves me, but she was in denial. And, she would always support me, but she would say shady stuff. I remember, for example, when I was a freshman in college, a friend of mine was a airline steward, and he introduced me to a beauty pageant, a friend of his who was from the islands. And we started dating, and she sent me open tickets, round trip, tickets to come to see her. And so I asked my mother, I was like, well, Mommy, are we doing anything for Christmas? She was like, Christmas? We ain't doing nothing for Christmas. I got to work. And so she said, why? And I said, well, because, I'm going to the islands to visit my friend. And for example, my friend's name was Samantha, but they call her Sam. So when I said Sam is sending me tickets to go to the islands, my mother was all happy, girl, because she thought Sam was a man. And I was like, Mommy, don't get all excited. Sam is short for Samantha. Girl, she was so shady. And Jack, she said, she must not have nothing better to do with her damn money. I was like, whatever, Mommy. Oh, she threw so much shade. Or, nobody can throw shade like your mother, honey.
woo, that shady tree, honey. The trees. So, what I'd like you to talk about specifically is, yes, we're in COVID right now, but there's still so many kids out there that not sure about their sexuality, and we're talking about specifically about the suicide, because they don't have family that are supporting them. And we all know, particularly in the Black community, in the Black community, it's even worse. So, and my thing is, I'm not here to judge anyone's sexuality. I'm all about loving people. If you're positive, I'm cool with you. If you're not positive, you got to hit the road, Jack,
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone out there, a young kid, a young child, or a woman coming into herself, where it's not, I want to get married and have the 2.1 kids? What advice would you give someone out there?
I think the first piece of advice I would give someone is to really to know that it's okay to be who you are, to be your authentic self, and then to surround yourself with people who support you and love you. Like you said, we've come so far in terms of equality for the LGBTQIA community. but you still have babies who are being bullied in school, who are committing suicide. You still have parents who are killing their children because they're gay or they think they're gay. And it's just devastating still. And every time I read a headline about that, it just takes me back. I did not, I remember just having a hard time being bullied in high school. And, there were times when I thought about, would this world be better if I weren't here? Would anyone miss me? Did anyone love me that much? And that was hard. And so I found a support system in that. In the LGBTQIA community, we say that we choose our family, and so my family became the gay men and the beautiful drag queens. When the kids would bully me in high school, I would cut class. And I went to school in Alexandria, and I would take the metro down to DuPont Circle where all the gay kids hung out. And they taught me about courage and resilience. They taught me to never let, someone see you sweat, and that, someone may break your heart, but you don't ever let anyone break your spirit. And so I developed a thick skin. So I just think it's important to surround yourself with people who do love you. And that's hard sometimes because, for example, with my father disowning me, what little girl doesn't want her daddy? So that was hard. But I think it's important to find support systems, and even for the parents, find organizations who, with other parents who have, children who are struggling with their sexuality. Or if you're a parent and you're struggling with your children's, sexuality, you got to find support systems.
So thank you. And thank you for sharing that, because that's what we want people to understand, to find support systems. So not only were you a veteran, you went out and, you're, in the LGBTQI community. So have you mentored anyone in the community as well? Like for those struggling, and do you find yourself being a mentor for some?
More so, in my earlier years, I became a mentor for a program in Chicago when I was living in Chicago. And they paired you with young individual, youth who were struggling with their sexuality. Some of them had been put out of their homes. They had been abused by their parents. And, unfortunately, when these children are put out of their homes, they often turn to sex work and in order to survive. And oftentimes, that can lead to psychological, mental issues. And sometimes, it leads to HIV. It's just so much for a child to have to endure.
If you could go back, Monica, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
That it's going to be okay. That it's going to be okay because, we've talked about this. I've never been a religious person. I've always been very spiritual. Because I remember when my grandparents used to take me to church, and I didn't quite understand the sermons when the pastor would say that, gays and lesbians, were going to hell and fire and brimstone. And I was thinking, I think he's talking about me. I think I'm like that, and so I kind of pulled away from the church. But I also knew that God wanted me to be a good person, to love everyone and try to be the person he wanted me to be versus who I thought I should be,
So let's say 45 were to call you from seeing you on the show and says, you know what? What was that look? But anyway, and say, Monica, I have like $50 million. I want to give it to you. Where would you put that? For example, in the LGBT community, what one thing would you like him to work on to make it better for the LGBT community?
I would put that towards this epidemic that we're going through within our community with the murdering of Black transgender women. I definitely would, because no one is really talking about it. As some, I shouldn't say no one, but there's not enough conversations around it. And, it's almost like a double-edged sword. It's like, society as a whole is not talking about it. And there are two communities, some people will say there's two communities. There's the white LGBTQ community, there's the Black. We have a capital pride, which is the white pride, and all the corporate sponsorships go to that. And then there's Black pride. And why do we have separate prizes? Well, we're dealing with some race issues right now in our country, so we have to talk about those things and have those uncomfortable conversations. But when you talk about Black transgender women, with the Black family and just being gay and lesbian, let alone transgender, they're suffering, and no one's really shining enough light on that for me. So that's where I would put that money.
Okay, I want to reach out and acknowledge some people. We have Monica Dodson, because I said that you're wearing that blue. Girl, she said she's wearing that blue.
That's one of my best friends of 30 years. Hey
Monica, how you doing? And then we have Deborah Wilborn. She said hi. Nisi Hargrove. She said hi, Monica.
Hey, niece.
Who else? Let me see. So a question I want to talk about. We want to get into this book because this is really what I want to talk about. Talk about this book. So I want for those who don't know, because we have more people that do the replays than watch the original. So I'll talk about that. So Monika and Pickett, she wrote basically a lesbian romance novel. Y'all heard me? A lesbian romance novel. And it's titled Pretty Boy Blue. Mm-hmm. It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon. Oh, look at you. You an author, #1 best author.
You're so cute. You make me miss home so much.
I know, right? I can get sometimes I get so Brooklyn. But I want people to know, basically, it's a relatively new voice in the literary category, because, which is true, we have a lot of African American books, but there's not many in the African American for lesbian romance. So now it says, from what I'm reading, Pretty Boy Blue has a second edition, and it has become the #1 bestseller on Amazon.com in the United States and Canada, across multiple categories, including lesbian romance. Come on, y'all do 2 snaps. Come on, I want to see claps. I want to see claps right here. I got to get a copy because I want to read it. Now, okay, let's slow it down a little bit, okay? You're a veteran. You are a mom, a grandmom, a mother, a daughter, just a wonderful human being. Okay,
thank you,
what made you wanted to go dip your feet into that pond that's called the literary world, and then start writing about lesbian romance? Come on, I'm listening. Nobody else listening. I'm listening. What's up,
girl? It's interesting because, I never planned on being an author, and like I always say, I think that we have our plan, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm not going to do this. And God is tapping his finger like, that's a cute little plan you got, but that ain't my plan. And I wrote the book when I was healing from a stroke. Unfortunately, in 2011, I had a stroke. I was initially diagnosed with sarcoidosis, like the late Bernie Mac, the comedian Bernie Mac. Unfortunately, my sarcoidosis spread from my lungs to my eyes to my brain, and there's no cure for it. So I'll be on a medication for the rest of my life. And as a result of it spreading to my brain, I had a stroke. And, I was living in Chicago at the time. I was married at the time. And there was just such a sense of urgency to recreate myself, because I was like, oh my God, like, I have an MBA from Johns Hopkins. I can't be no disabled housewife, And so I started journaling to just, because I was stuck in the house. I couldn't walk. I was going to therapy, and it was cold in Chicago. It was the winter time. And I just started journaling. And as I started journaling, I was like, oh, this is kind of good. So it's fiction, but it's loosely based on my life. And I started writing it. And then I met with a consultant. I said, I think I want to write a book. That's how I can recreate myself. And so I met with a consultant, and she said, you should always think in 3. And so when I looked at the book, I said, oh, okay, well, I've written so much that I could break this in 2. So really, when I first wrote Pretty Boy Blue, I wrote 2 books at once. Okay. So like currently I'm working on the last installment of the trilogy. And so at the time, like I said, I was married and I wanted to still maintain my independence. So I didn't want my wife at the time to finance my dream. So I funded and published the first edition with a GoFundMe page. And so a GoFundMe campaign. So I didn't feel comfortable asking people to support me without giving them something in return. And so whoever donated, whether it was $5 or $250, I gave them a juicy part of the book. And girl, when I tell you that the donations started coming in, and that's how I financed publishing the first edition. And then I did a focus group where it was about maybe 30 women, and I had a nice caterer come, and we had, some liquor. We had some liquor, some good liquor, and some
the good kind.
The good kind. And we, I got their feedback from the book, and it was a very diverse focus group. There were straight women, bi women who mess around in college, or like I always say, women who are married to a man. They had 3 kids, but when we go on a girl trip, they're lesbians. So it was just some of everybody. And they shut up, Jack. You're so crazy. So,
wait a minute. I'm doing the Matrix thing because I got to come back here now. Woo! Whoa!
Yeah, and I'll always remember it was so engaging because they were like, that happened to me, or I've always felt this way. And thank you for just being your authentic self. And, 2 of my straight girlfriends came up to me and they were like, girl, I know I don't want to offend you or, make you, I know how you are about men. I was like, what? And they were like, when I read this part or that part, I was so glad my husband was home. And I was like, girl, I said, listen, I was like, get it. I was like, if I can write as a writer, if I can write and you read it and it makes you feel something, that means I'm doing my job as a writer. So if you got it with your husband, guess what? I'm good. I'm happy.
So where do you see yourself in, because I don't like to asking people like in 10 years. I like to go in 5 years increments or 3 years increments. Where do you see Monica Pickett? Where do you see her in 5 years?
I see Monica Pickett becoming a successful screenwriter. So I'm going to write this last installment of the trilogy, and then I'm working on the screenplay. And then my plan is to shop that around to a major network like Netflix, HBO, Showtime. Right. Mm-hmm. I think the timing is perfect because
people need content.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, why, lesbians, specifically African-American lesbians, our voices, our contributions are usually excluded from the narratives of history. And even now, I want someone to look at me, maybe a young person or an older person who is struggling with their sexuality. I want them to look at me and not have to wonder, oh, is she out? Is she married? I think she has a girlfriend. No, this is who I am. I'm a lesbian. And people need to see that, because why aren't my contributions, important just as anybody else's, as important as anybody else's?
So, well, Monika Dotson said, oh no, Broadway. You need to talk about Broadway as well.
My sister said the same thing.
So is it because, are you saying that because we have a lot of screenwriters out there, producers, directors, that people assume that they're gay, but they don't want to come out and say it because they think that they may, either it's no one's business or because they just don't want to talk about it because it may ruin what they're doing and they don't want to be labeled gay? Because do you think that's what it is?
I think it's some of the time it is because, as what's going on in our country right now. And as Black people, we have to work twice as hard. And I think we're still dealing with that. It's like for some industries, and, we just got our foot in the door. I mean, thank God we have people like Janet Mock, who's doing Pose, executive producer and writer. And, we have Alina Waithe, we have Cheryl Deney. But there's still room for more. I think all of our stories have a place, and I cannot tell you how many times when I could be having a difficult day, or maybe my spirit is weary, and I will ask God, is this your will? Is this, please guide me, order my steps. And Jackie, I will receive a message or email or a DM from someone in Zimbabwe who says, I was afraid to read your book. There was one woman who said, I was afraid to read your book. And I was like, my ex, why? Thank you for supporting me, but my ex, why? And she said, because this is my life. And where I live here in Zimbabwe, I could be murdered, I could be raped, and I just can't be who I am. And she was 45. And so I realized that although this is just one woman's story, my story, I think it's also the story of so many other people who may not feel that they have a voice for whatever reason.
Right. Well, and it's good to know that you have that voice, because at the end of the day, you're not just speaking for yourself, you're speaking for other people, who you didn't know. So what did it feel like when you first wrote the book? You were satisfied? Were you nervous? Like, I wonder what people are going to think about it, because it is bits and pieces of yourself that's in the book. So what did you, how did you feel when it was received well? How did you feel about that?
I was just like, oh, thank you, God. Like, it was such an overwhelming feeling. There was so much positivity, just so much support. And unfortunately, there's some very difficult sections of the book. And some people were like, this happened to me and I never told anyone, or, my father's a bishop, and or our family has been in this church for 3 generations, and I'll never come out while my parents are alive. And I'm like, wow, how, like, I cannot imagine that, because I can't imagine being me trying to be someone other than I'm not. I just couldn't do it. And for someone to have to struggle with that every day, I just cannot imagine.
And now that we have COVID,
Oh,
you can't say that your parents are going to die before you,
you
because you
cannot.
never know. And that's why I think it's so important to live your true, authentic self. I know it's easier said than done, but I think we have to free ourselves, because in the Black community, we have so many secrets. We know, I'm not stereotyping, but we know usually the choir director is gay. Okay, we usually we know this, and it's like one of those hush hush things, because I think people should be whoever they want to be. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? And
Exactly.
just as long as you're positive, I don't care if you're gay, straight, as long as you're positive
And a good
towards me.
person.
I know, that's what I'm saying. A good person, a sweet person. That's all that matters. So I don't care who you bring in the bedroom. That's your business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking for positive, uplifting people.
Exactly.
So because it's almost like I don't come out and say, "Hey, I'm straight, so I need you." You know what I'm saying? So we
Right.
don't need to necessarily know who's in your bedroom with, but I do understand what you're saying, because it's like you think you're not sure, maybe they are, and like I said, because there isn't anything wrong with that. But I love you're so multi-layered. You said you had a stroke. Were you diagnosed with this prior to having the stroke, with that illness, that disease?
Yes. It started out just as sarcoidosis, and then it progressed to neurosarcoidosis, which for people who have sarcoidosis, only 1 to 3% of that population have neurosarcoidosis, which means it spreads to your brain, and there is no cure. Again, I'll be on medication for the rest of my life. And sometimes, even a cold, a infection can just really bring me to the cusp of a relapse. Like right now with COVID-19, it's just, I feel like I'm living in a bubble, because, I just have to be very aware of who I'm around, because you don't know how other people are, taking care of themselves, what their behavior is. And like, for example, my sister can get a cold and she could maybe have the flu, and I could get a cold and with my compromised immune system, I just really probably wouldn't make it, because of my immune system.
And does that affect your lymph nodes as well?
Not as much. It's just from the stroke, and I have some residual. Like, for example, um, the stroke impacted my right side, so my right side is weaker than my left side. And sometimes when I have an infection or I get really tired, I just have to really sit down and rest a lot. And sometimes it's just a lot of, it entails a lot of fatigue, and then of course, like, the only thing that really kind of brings me back on track is I've had infusions similar to chemo for several years, and thank God I'm not doing those anymore. But I'm on one medication, methotrexate, and then prednisone.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And so, even with that, people don't realize that I miss sometimes the smallest things. Like, I didn't even own a pair of flats before I had the stroke. And oftentimes I would get vertigo where I would literally walk sideways and not know I was walking sideways until, someone would say, "Are you okay? You're staggering or stumbling." And so little things I can't do. Like, I really can't dance as much. And I used to love dancing. Now I do the old lady two-step child. That's all I can do.
Look, it's weird because I met someone who's become one of my dearest and greatest friends, and she has that, and she's on prednisone,
Oh,
and just listening to what she goes through on a daily, and she was also in the military.
oh,
And
okay.
just listening to the things that she goes through in the prednisone, and you have to be careful because it can mess up your organs and
Yes,
things like
yes.
that. And you have the bloatness, the
Oh
swollen,
my gosh.
you get swollen.
Let me tell you something. And it's a lot, like, mentally, like, people don't understand unless you're going through it. Like, when I was having a relapse, about 3 or 4 months ago, and I was rushed to the hospital, and they wanted to give me an infusion of 80 milligrams of prednisone steroids. And
Whoa.
I was so sad because I was, I'm still, I have a disability. I had to acknowledge that, which was hard for
Mhm.
me, but that's my reality. But I was like, oh my God, I was working out 3 times a week. I was looking all cute, girl. And I was like, what? Like, because I knew it was going to blow me up immediately. So they decided not to do it intravenously, but still I had to go on, it was the pill form. But when I tell you that, girl, I used to tell my sister, I would just cry. I was like, oh, I look like a cute moon pie. The little moon pie.
I'm not fooling with you. I am not fooling with you
I
at
was like,
all. No,
my
I'm
face
not
was
gonna
big,
laugh.
but I was like, oh my God, it was between the moon pie or Sherman Clump. I was devastated, but it could always be worse. I'm blessed. It
Yes,
could
you're
always be
alive.
worse.
And
Yeah.
you're alive. And that made, because I remember someone, they were making fun of T-Boz, and she's on prednisone and she swole up, and but they were saying that she got fat, and they had no idea that she was on prednisone. And that's why we have to be so careful what we're saying to people
Yeah.
and the
You don't want
remarks that we're making, because we
to,
don't know how it affects them. But you said something when you was cute, girl. You still cute. You still be okay. I would hate to see if your makeup artist had put on some makeup on you, because
baby, my makeup artist ain't, she's not to be played with, okay? But I just had to give y'all a little bit on my own. So, I'm like, okay.
okay, so we know you had to do that. So, okay, so you had the stroke. So, is there any lingering effects for it? Because I could see, did they were you rushed to the hospital in time for them to give you the TPA? I think that's what it's called.
What is that?
That's something that they're doing now, where if you're having a stroke, you have to have, yes, a stroke. If you're having a stroke, you have to be rushed to the hospital between a certain time. I think a
Oh,
window between
okay.
3 to 4 hours,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
because what happens is, like, a lot of cells die out and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So this kind of
Yeah.
helps it.
Luckily, I didn't live too far from the University of Chicago.
Oh,
And
good hospital.
um, yeah, and so one morning, it was so interesting. I was fussing with my aunt about going to the doctors, and I was fussing with her, and then I got up to go to the bathroom, and then I fell, and I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And I was like, well, did I drink last night? And I'm not a big drink. I'm really a beer girl. So I was like, okay, I didn't drink last night. And then, you know, I was a medic in the military. So I was like, oh my God, am I having a stroke? Because I tried to get up and I fell again and my legs just, they didn't work. And I started feeling tingling on the right side and the room started spinning. And I was like, what is going on? And so my wife at the time, you know, yelled for my son to call 911. And at the time, our room was on the 4th level. And it was just so scary because I was still aware, but my head was just, it felt like it was exploding. And so I said, oh my God, I think I'm having a stroke. And my son called 911 and the medics, they had to come upstairs and we had spiral staircases and he put me on his back because I couldn't walk. He put me on his back and carried me down the steps. And it was just surreal. Luckily, we were maybe like 7 minutes away from the University of Chicago.
What has that taught you? Because that had to have been scary. We know the survival rate of stroke victims. Now it's a little better, but what has that taught you? Because you were at the brink, you know what I'm saying? And now you have this you have a disease, ill disease. What has that taught you? You know, because you're amazing. You're freaking amazing.
Oh, I just feel like I'm Monica. You know, I love being a nana. You know, I'm just a Jersey girl.
Yeah. So what has that taught you? Just because I know you say you're just a Jersey girl, but what has that taught you about life?
That is short. And that you have got to love yourself and be yourself and love the people around you, you know, and just continue to surround yourself with people who love you. I mean, I don't have any time. I think you know, I've been, you know, talking to my sister. She's about 7 years younger. And I just talked to her just about what we go through as Black women, as mothers. And, you know, I just, at this stage and age in my life, I just don't have time for any nonsense. You know, when you were little, and I remember being little and my aunts would just say the craziest stuff. They were like, you know, they would say the craziest stuff and we would be horrified. Like, oh my God, you know, why did Aunt Floyd say that? Or Aunt Cindy say that? But now I'm like, I told my sister, how can I become a middle-aged lady? Because girl, I say whatever the hell I want. And I mean what I say. I do what I want to do. I don't do anything I don't want to do. And that's where I am in my life.
And you know what? And it's so important because I think when I turned 30, I was turning that curve because I would always say what I wanted, but I still would censor some things. Now I have no filter. I'm not looking to hurt anyone's feelings, but what I'm looking to do is say what I mean what I say, and not worry about it. Because as you said, life is so short. COVID has taught me life is even shorter than I thought it was. So many people are dying. So many people are, you know, and the sad thing is you have family and the divorce rate is definitely going up because I've been listening to statistics. So now is the time to lean into the people that really support you and love you.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And show them, you know, like whether it's a girlfriend, you know, because we all built our tribe. Because I call the Women Are Worthy. It's a tribe that I'm building of women supporting each other, loving each other. Because look, the quickest way to get on my nerve is to be negative. I don't have time for negative Nellies. Exactly. I'm all about positive Pollys. I don't have time for the rest, you know. So I say we're all in the same book. We're just in different chapters. You may be in chapter 10. I'm in chapter 2. Just give me time, right? Because we don't all learn the same way, and we see what's going on in the educational system. Obviously, people don't learn the way they think we should be learning. So again, I just want to say your mom did a great job. Your dad did a great job. You know, if you know, because you're such a, you know, you and I have talked a couple of times. You know, I hit you up and we just have, it seems like I've known you forever. And I want to know, where can people get your book? I know we said it earlier, but for those who are going to, you know, click in later on, how can they get your book? And we need to talk about all your social media pages so they can follow that as well. So we need to talk about that. So Also pretty. It's Pretty Boy Blue. I don't know
Right.
how did you get that name, Pretty Boy Blue?
Well, I'm always asked that question. And so I remember my wife at the time was like, honey, what are you gonna title it? And I was like, oh no, honey, I just have to write it and God will send it to me. He'll send it to me. And then one morning, Jackie, like 3 o'clock in the morning, it was just 3 words that were just floating in the air. And I just started crying. And I was like, this is it. And so Pretty Boy Blue, pretty comes the word I use pretty because when I first came out, um, people would often say, but you're too pretty to be that way. And I was like, well, what does that mean? This is who I am. I can't help the way that I look. I can't help that I like girls, you know.
There's some sort of background noise.
I'm
There's a
sorry,
background
excuse
noise.
me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to, girl, like I said, mommy.
I know because I saw when mommy was walking, because on the blower half, I saw when she was walking by. And I'm like, she wants camera time.
No, I'm like, she was already. I did an interview a week ago when she was my guest. I'm like, mommy, you can't be in the background doing all this stuff. I mean, crying chicken and stuff. Mommy, please.
Because not even editing it is going to get that part out.
It's not going to get it out. I just can't take it, girl. So thank you. Please forgive me. I'm trying to do it here, and she wanted fried chicken, and
It's
anyway.
all good. It's all good in the hood. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So that's where pretty came in. When I would come out and people would say, you're too pretty to be that way. And the boy would come in because in the book, I talk about assumptions. And especially, like we said, within a Black family, the Black church, the Black community. I know I present as a very feminine woman and what some people would call the lipstick lesbian, but I've always felt like a boy on the inside. And so I always felt like a pretty boy. And the blue comes in when I was bullied in high school. And that was a very sad time. So the color blue represents sadness. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that shirt because you're wearing blue, honey. So you're wearing, because I thought you were going to say it's your favorite color. That's why it's not good to make assumptions.
Yeah,
I thought it was your favorite color because the blue becomes you. That's your color.
What?
That is I said it. But yeah, so tell us where we can get your book, your social media handles, and things like that.
The book is available, both the Pretty Boy Blue and the sequel, The Darkest Shade of Blue, is available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Also, for those who want signed copies of the book of Pretty Boy Blue, I don't have any. I sold out of The Darkest Shade of Blue, but signed copies of Pretty Boy Blue, they can cash at me at $ Monica Pickett. And then also my social media handles, they can find me on Facebook at Monica Pickett, Facebook and LinkedIn Monica Pickett, and on Instagram _ Pretty Monica Pickett.
Okay, and how much is the book for? If someone's wondering, how much is the book?
The book is $16.99.
Okay.
And I also add like $5 for shipping.
Right, that's a great price.
Yeah.
So,
and I wanted that. I chose that price because I selected that price. I wanted more people to be able to purchase it.
Right, and so I like what you're doing. So, what are you doing next? What's next for Monica?
Oh, girl, the screenplay. It's just I had to learn how to use this software, that all of the screenwriters use in Hollywood. So that was nerve-wracking. But it's, working on a screenplay and almost simultaneously working on the third trilogy. So, and I think given this COVID-19, I just always believe in divine alignment. And now I have time to really focus on and give it my all because half of my supporters are like, oh, to hell with the screenplay. What happened? Where's the rest of the book? And then the other half is like, oh gosh, where is the screenplay? So, and that's a good position to be in.
Because it doesn't matter, because you write the book, you could still do the screenplay, because for people like me, I want to see the visual, because when I'm reading a book, I'm actually seeing the characters. I create my own movies, even
Right.
when I meet someone, I create my own story about them. Okay. So it may be true, may not be, because I create my own story.
Yeah, yeah.
So so that's great to see that you're planning on taking it there. And I want everyone to understand that we're here to support you. We love what you're doing. And again, I'm just so in
Thank you
awe that
so much.
you're a veteran
Oh,
for
thank
the
you.
Army, and also a medic. So we want people to remember, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because we're going to put this on YouTube. The YouTube channel is the Women Are Worthy Network. Facebook and Instagram is the Women Are Worthy Show. And if you want to look at our website, it's thewomenareworthy.net. You have just been a pleasure, honey. We're gonna have
Oh,
to
thank
bring
you
you
so
on.
much. You
It's been
stuck with me
a
now,
pleasure.
girl.
I know. I don't found a new BFF. Okay,
Yes.
BFFs, if y'all watching, calm down, because I got enough love for more of the BFF. And I'm loving Monica. I'm loving Nisi. I'm loving all your tribe.
Those are my DMV girls. We go way back 30 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
so they got all the secrets.
Oh,
Okay, they got
baby.
all the secrets. Again, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. We want to remind people, please make sure you wear your mask. Make sure you're wearing your gloves. Make sure you're using your hand sanitizers. We're in the state of Georgia, and it's actually spiking here. So we
Yeah.
just want to remind everyone, just be safe. If you can't be good, at least be safe. And remember, social distancing 6 feet and above. So, Miss Monica, you've just been a pleasure, a rare gem.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. You
And
stuck with me, girl. I
I
love you.
know.
Like cook food.
Girl, I love you too, like dumpling, honey, like making dumpling.
Brooklyn in
So,
the house.
yeah. So, baby,
Baby,
baby.
baby. I
This
was
is the hotline.
before the show. I was listening to Little Kim and to get ready for you. So I just wanted you to know that.
Okay, what you were singing on "Crush on You"? Was that what you were?
Jump off, baby. To jump off.
Oh, with her and not was that her and not what's his face? To the jump up. I can't remember the
I
singer who
forgot.
did the
I was
rapper.
getting it.
Yeah,
Yes,
because I think
yes.
he had dreads and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff. I know, and she's yeah to the one to yeah, babe.
yes.
Okay, let me stop. Okay. I'm gonna make sure that, like I said, just call me. We're connected. We now have a lifeline. Okay. Nisi said DMV in the house. No,
DMV, baby.
no. We're not having none of that. Okay. No, Nisi, we're not having that. Don't come try. Look, Nisi. From Brooklyn night to a DMV. You don't come on my show and talk about DMV in the house. Have you lost your ever loving mind, Nisi? You got to have lost your mind.
Brooklyn in the
Shoot.
house.
Yes. I have to get Nisi all together. Okay. Nisi, I have to put you all together. How dare you? You wouldn't go on Steve Harvey's show and say such and such in the house. You're going like, hey, Steve, how you doing? You respect my city. Respect my city. Put some respect on Brooklyn.
It's so crazy. This was so fun, Jackie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so go tell your mama she can fry that chicken now.
Girl.
Okay. She can make that little sound she was making. Okay.
Lord,
so
thank you so much, sweetie.
You're welcome. And we want to thank everyone. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and a great weekend. Don't forget to watch us on Friday. We're going to have, she says, Steve who? Nisi, I'm not playing with you. We're going to have Mr. Ken Honda. He's known as the Zen Millionaire. And this guy retired at 29. And he's going to show us, he sold, okay, ready, y'all? 8 million books.
What?
8 million books. He's in Japan.
I got it.
you know, he got to be on the girl show. So he's going to be retired at 29 and sold 8 million books. So he's wrote, I think, 56 books or something like that. I think he would write like 3 books a month. I think he told me 3 books a month. So we're going to talk to him about, he wants to talk to people about relationship with money, because Japan, their relationship with money is different from the Western world. So he's going going to give a girl some tips, hopefully some
Please.
stocks and bonds and stuff like that. So, we want everyone to tune in. Thank you, Nisa. You said great show. Please go on the Women Are Worthy show and leave a comment. Miss Monica, leave a comment.
I sure will.
You know what? And Miss Monica Dodson too. You know what? I think I'm gonna like y'all DMV girls. I'm gonna like y'all. Okay. I don't want no more. I'll just deal with y'all three all in the day. Because I'm telling you, y'all working my last nerve about DMV in the house. So with everyone, we want everyone to have a great night and be safe. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. You're welcome.